He took the deal on the side of a dirt road, just before dusk. It looked like a blessing, something to protect his caravan after 3 ambushes in a single month. The vendor didn't ask for payment. He only pointed to a disc of jade, wrapped in red thread and stamped with symbols that looked scorched into the surface. For protection, the old man said. That month, bandits stripped his cart, broke his ribs, and took everything he carried. He was done begging for luck. So he accepted the disc and tied it beneath the cart. That night, the same group of bandits was found collapsed near the pass. Their arms bent backwards at the joints, jaws dislocated, teeth missing. The merchant reached home untouched, but he didn't feel safe. His wife wouldn't stop coughing. The fire wouldn't light. The dogs wouldn't come near the door. He tried to ignore it, until he woke one morning and saw that his wife's lips were gone. Not cut, gone. Skin grown smooth across her mouth, as if stitched shut from inside. Her eyes were open, blinking silently. The room reeked of burnt copper and wet earth. In the corner, just outside the edge of the light, something shifted. No footsteps, no breath, just a figure made of folds and cracks, watching. He grabbed the disc and threw it into the stove. The flames died instantly. He buried it 10 feet down. It returned to his doorstep the next morning, covered in wet dirt. That's when he understood. The deal hadn't been with the vendor. It had been with the thing that left its mark on the disc. A Mogui, demon of silence, rot, and binding, one of the oldest class of demons in Chinese belief. It needed permission, and now it lived with them, inside the walls. Between the words, she could no longer say, and it wasn't finished. Not all demons in Chinese tradition are born equal. Some were once human. Others were never meant to exist. Understanding what they are, and more importantly, how they reach us, begins with separating the names that are often thrown together as if they meant the same thing. The most common is Gui. These are the spirits of the dead, but not honored ancestors. Ju are what remain when death is incomplete. Those who died with hatred, without burial, or without being remembered. They linger, hollow and hungry, often bound to places or objects. Some seek attention, others seek revenge, but they are not truly demons. Then there are the Mogui, like the one in the merchant's story. Mogui are not remnants. They are entities of raw spiritual force, pure hostility, decay, and disruption. They are not the dead. They are what creeps in when the laws of life and death are tampered with. Some are ancient, bound to talismans or temples long forgotten. Others drift like shadows across generations, feeding on pain, fear, or imbalance. Yao Guai falls somewhere in between. They are not spirits of the dead, but of the transformed. A Yao Guai can be born when a creature, animal, plant, object, even a discarded tool, gathers enough spiritual energy to gain awareness. Some become tricksters. Some crave worship. Many seduce humans with false promises, disguising themselves as deities or beautiful strangers. A fox that saves your life might ask for a favor years later, and by then, it's not a favor. It's a contract. And lastly, there are the Wangliang, the oldest and most primal of all. These are forest things, bog things, whispering things. Not demons in the moral sense, but in the ancient one, beings that defy human order. They don't tempt, they don't reason. They consume. Mistaken for animals, they often appear as malformed creatures with too many limbs or none at all, covered in soil, moss, bone, or bark. Some believe they are not evil, only wild. Others say they were never meant to be seen by the living. Each of these entities interacts with the world differently. Gui haunt, Mogui infect, Yao Guai deceive, Wangliang devour. And knowing which one you've encountered determines whether you can still act or if it's already too late. There was this woman who learned that difference too late. She found the incense in a temple, No one worshipped anymore. The place was buried behind trees, roof cracked open to the sky, statues covered in vines and rot. But the incense was untouched. A single stick, silver-wrapped, resting on an altar where no name remained. She didn't come to pray. She came to beg. Her beauty was fading, and with it, the attention that once opened every door. So she lit the incense. No offering, no words, just the hope that someone or something was still listening. That night, she dreamed of a woman cloaked in red silk, face hidden behind a jeweled mask. "You wish to remain desired," the figure said. "Then let me take what you no longer need." She nodded. She woke feeling young again. Skin tight, hair thick, voice smooth. Her reflection had turned back 10 years. But her daughter had not spoken since dawn. The child's skin paled, her eyes grew dim, and by nightfall she couldn't walk. Doctors found nothing. The girl was alive, but dimming. The mother said nothing. She knew. The figure had returned in her mirror, smiling now with rows of perfect white teeth. What she had lit was not incense. It was a gate. The being that stepped through was no goddess, but a Yaohuai, a fox spirit born of centuries, feeding not on flesh, but on vanity. These Yaozhai are not rare. Some promise power. Others promise vengeance. Some offer protection from other demons, binding themselves to families in exchange for loyalty or blood. What they give is always exactly what was asked for. What they take is always more than the one who asked can afford. In her case, the price was youth, taken from her daughter and funneled into her own body, day by day. But a Yaogui deal does not end with a single payment. Their influence stains bloodlines. That same fox now sleeps beneath the floorboards of her home, waiting for the daughter's child, or the child's child, to make their own wish. They always do. And by then, the Yaogui doesn't need to ask. It just returns. But some curses don't need to wait generations. They hide in simpler things. There was a girl who couldn't stop staring at her own reflection. The mirror had belonged to her grandmother, passed down with words of warning that no one remembered clearly. It was framed in black wood, heavy and cold, and older than anyone in the family. The girl was 9 when she hung it beside her bed. For the first week, she saw nothing strange. Then, on the 8th night, she looked into the glass and saw herself frowning, while her real face smiled. She blinked. The reflection didn't, and when she stepped away, it stayed frozen, staring. Over time, the reflection began to shift subtly. The eyes sharper, the mouth thinner, the clothes just slightly different. It mimicked her, but not perfectly. One night, she wished her older sister would disappear. The next morning, the sister broke her arm falling down the stairs. No one connected it to the mirror, but the girl kept wishing, and the reflection kept smiling. What lived in the mirror was not a ghost. It was a lesser Magui, a demon formed of envy and resentment, sealed long ago into the glass by a corrupted ritual. It didn't possess her body. It possessed her choices. Each time she envied something, it acted for her, quietly, efficiently, without remorse. These kinds of demonic objects are not rare in Chinese tradition. Many began as sacred tools, talismans, dolls, scrolls, coins. But over generations, through neglect, abuse, or desperation, they became containers for something else. In some regions, they are hidden intentionally, used in old households to trap mobi before they spread. In others, they are disguised as heirlooms, waiting for someone naive enough to use them. One village believed they could reverse death. When a respected elder was killed by raiders, his family placed a preserved talisman on his forehead, hoping to delay the burial until proper rites could be performed. But the talisman was flawed, and the ritual incomplete. The corpse rose after 7 days. What stood was not the man they buried. It was a Jiangshi. It didn't speak. It didn't recognize its name. It returned to the house at night, standing at the edge of the son's bed, mimicking the position it used to sleep in. The child never spoke again. The Jiangshi was destroyed days later, but the house never held warmth again. That's the danger of tampering with death, or sealing power you don't understand. Some demons don't need to chase you. They wait on your shelf, on your wall, or in your blood. But also there are demons who don't whisper or strike. They warp everything they touch, space, memory, even logic. The oldest of them has no name you can say, no face you can describe, and no motive you can understand. The Taoist scrolls call it Hundun, a being born of chaos itself. Not evil, not angry, just wrong. Hundun has no eyes, no mouth, no ears. Because it doesn't need to see, speak, or hear. It only distorts. Wherever it appears, time fractures, space bends, meaning breaks, rivers loop in circles. Names are forgotten mid-sentence. People walk through doors and never return, not because they vanished, but because the idea of door stopped working. Hundun doesn't whisper in dreams or make deals. It doesn't offer power or demand sacrifice. It simply appears, and rules no longer apply. In one of the darker records passed down in obscure Taoist sects, a monk sought what he called the heart of the void. He believed that only by stepping beyond heaven and hell could one attain ultimate detachment. He vanished into a mountain, where the entrance was carved with 13 empty circles. He passed them all, no one knows how. 3 days later, he walked out barefoot, bleeding from the eyes. Where his pupils once were, there was nothing, just smooth, glistening skin. When asked what he had seen, he smiled and said, "Now I see." After that, he never spoke again. Animals avoided him. Water in his presence rippled without cause. Candles bent their flames away from him. People who touched him forgot their own names. Those who looked too long at his face reported dreams where the sun rose in the west, where children were born speaking backwards, and where every mirror showed something different. When the monk finally died, he didn't decay. He folded inward, layer by layer, until nothing remained but a pile of robes and ash. That mountain pass is now abandoned. The villagers nearby say sometimes the wind there moves in spirals, not circles. Spirals, like something is still turning the world inward from that point. Hundun is not a warning about morality or sin. He is a reminder that not all horror has a reason. Some demons aren't after your soul. They're after the shape of the world itself. But while some demons tear the world apart, others cling to it quietly, desperately. The Gui are the most common among them. They are not beasts or spirits of chaos. They are the dead, those who died improperly, unfairly, or worse, anonymously. A soul without rest becomes a presence without direction. Gui drift near the places where they perished, follow the descendants of those who buried them poorly, or sink into homes that no longer remember their names. Most do not arrive angry, but when neglected, they become something else. Not because they want revenge, but because they've been left with nothing else. In one mountain village, the dead were honored every week with bowls of rice, incense, and paper garments folded with care. Entire families participated, not out of fear, but out of rhythm. Then came electricity, then came roads, and then came forgetting. The younger generation no longer lit incense. They're gone, they said. They can't need anything. But the dreams returned first, eyes open in the darkness, breathing under the floorboards. A widow found mud on her pillow. A schoolteacher saw her late father's handwriting on her chalkboard. Then, a child disappeared for 6 hours and was found standing in the rice fields, barefoot, holding a burned incense stick and unable to speak. The village split. Some rebuilt the altars. Others refused. For the families who remembered the rites, peace returned gradually. For those who didn't, The nights stretched longer. Food soured. Animals howled at nothing. Doors locked themselves. One man woke to find coins under his tongue, folded paper coins, damp with soil. The Gui had not attacked him. They had simply reminded him that forgetting them was not the same as being free. They do not always want pain. They want a place. And for those who deny them both, they take what was never offered. Voice, memory, sleep. They don't scream. They simply stay until you forget what silence used to be like. But not all hauntings begin with the forgotten. Some begin with silence, with permission given too easily, too casually. And across the long shadows of Chinese mythology, every type of demon waits for that moment. The Gui wait to be remembered. The Magui wait to be invited. The Yaguai wait to be desired. And the Wangliang, they wait for nothing at all. Some come through talismans you hang without question. Others creep through gifts you accept without asking who sent them. Some enter when you break tradition. Others when you try to twist it for your own ends. Not all evil arrives in smoke and claw. Sometimes it rides in through a prayer too shallow or a protection too easy. And when it arrives, it doesn't always want your soul. Sometimes it wants your sleep. The myth of demons in Chinese belief is not built on sin or punishment. It's built on imbalance. They come not when you break the rules of morality, but when you break the rules of memory, of respect, of rhythm. The most dangerous demons aren't the ones that chase. They are the ones that answer. They hear your needs, your fears, your little compromises. And all they need is a space to wait. The deal doesn't demand worship. It demands access. And once granted, it doesn't leave. Some call it superstition. Others call it myth. But if you ever hold something in your hands and feel it watching, don't ask what it wants. Ask what you've already given. Eels don't need your words, only your consent.